My friends, immigration. The only thing that drives Donald Trump crazy besides yellow number 5 hair color. This week was the pollero in the Rio Bravo of news. Immigration, as many of you may know, is in the main agenda of this government, and the one before, and the one before, and the one before, Well, it's been part of the campaign of every candidate, Democrat or Republican, throughout the years. Like promising ice cream to millions, but then make them wait 40 years to get it. But why is immigration a subject so hard to grasp for American people? Because Americans have a hard time grasping anything? Is it true that immigrants are destroying our way of life and threatening the security of the United States with their presence? Well, we are trying to figure out that too. Immigrants take our jobs, they don't pay taxes, they're a drain on the economy. They make America less America. They make like guacamole taking control of every side dish in history, and you know it, immigrants are seen the wrong way by many Americans. This cliche is supported with only stereotypes and, of course, a huge wage gap among them. But this argument becomes stronger when assholes like Bernie Madoff promote a major financial disaster and everybody loses their job or their house for believing in some magic and illogical money scam. Exactly. But in fact, and we're going to bring the boring numbers, there is huge evidence that immigrants are creating businesses and reviving the US workforce, like a Gatorade for the Standard and Poor's bullshit. From 2006 to 2012, more than 40% of the startup tech companies in Silicon Valley had at least one foreign-born founder, and 28% of all new small businesses in 2011 were owned by immigrants. So, they are stealing the jobs by creating them and closing the companies in a complex and cruel masquerade? Are they the fucking writers of Count of Monte Cristo? Or worst, they are the R.R. Martin killing every character of their stories every month? Certainly not. Look at this map and see which cities are the top 10 with the largest and smallest foreign-born populations. Economic powerhouses like LA, San Jose, the Silicon Valley heart, New York, Houston, San Francisco, and even Miami have an impact that is directly related with the foreign-born workforce. When these immigrants learn English and become citizens, they tend to contribute to the economy, and in fact, there are two major examples that will help remove the head out of their ass of everyone that keeps saying that immigrants are stealing our jobs and not paying taxes. In New York, immigrants made up 44% of the city's workforce in 2011. And in LA, they accounted for the third of the economic output in 2007. With this data, the logical conclusion should be, immigrants are awesome, give me some of them, and let's crush the world. But everybody knows that pricks hate data because when you're a dickhead, math is just not enough. The effort of immigration advocates are worthless every presidential term, and an immigration reform seems just a promise every campaign. Or worst, when you're a billionaire reality show star pre-running for president and getting all the headlines in every newspaper in the world saying that US should kick out immigrants and register those who are citizens already, just exactly like the bad plot of a sci-fi Nazi movie. And the nightmare that immigrants have to go through, because racism is just not enough, is dangerous, inhuman, and very often deadly. But that is not shown in the news. But don't worry, we are here. Amigos, the United States, it's home for about 2.9 million immigrants from the Central America countries of Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama. Or easier for everyone, all here in the center except Mexico. Immigration from Central America has grown rapidly in the recent decades. But more than 2 out of every 5 Central America immigrants lacks legal immigration status, while about 1 in every 10 lives in the US under temporary humanitarian protection. Why humanitarian protection? Simple, because they had to cross Mexico. The Mexican government has a strong subject every meeting with the US, the police brutality against Mexican immigrants, but like this guy making fun of obese girls in Facebook, Mexican government is in no position to make any demands, especially when it comes to the subject of abused and humiliated immigrants. Central American immigrants need to make the final travel across the vast, dry, and full of bullets territory of Mexico in a train called the Beast. And if history has taught us something, is that if you write something called the Beast and you're not in a porn movie, the results are not going to be pretty. Also, They had to face the violence of criminal organizations trying to avoid being kidnapped, or if they're lucky enough to make it, feeding the corrupt system of the immigration agents all over Mexico. This trip that seems like a real-life torture level final boss of Mega Man 3 is useless most of the times, because when they arrive to the US, the struggle is just the beginning. But there's one crisis that gives us goosebumps. We are referring to the rise in the unaccompanied children from Central America seeking entrance to the US. Yes, this one has increased very fast, doubling in volume each year, reaching crisis proportion in 2014, when tens of thousands of women and children from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras migrated to the United States. Most women and children from Central America simply crossed the Rio Grande and turned themselves into the U.S. Border Patrol, relying on the belief, partly correct, that U.S. immigration and refugee law made special provision for children. Jose Manuel, come on, eat your soup, cabrón, ándale, eh? If you don't eat your soup, I'll send you to the school in Texas without papers, cabrón, eh? But Mom, there's no soup. Told you, pack your things, you're grounded, motherfucker. The provisions of H.R. 7311, signed into law by George W. Bush, yes, Bush and human rights, I know, gives substantial rights and protection to unaccompanied children from countries that do not have a common border with the U.S. This made expeditious deportation of a large number of children from Central America difficult and expensive, prompting a call by President Obama for an emergency appropriation of nearly $4 billion, and resulted in discussion on how to revise the law in 2008. In order to expedite handling large number of unaccompanied children. Most of these children are sent by their parents to look for a better future, but at least now they have a country to call home. But certainly, Syrian refugees don't have it easy themselves. Since our recurrent favorite furry asshole Donald Trump has said he will send home all Syrian refugees that the US accepts if, God forbid, he becomes president. Only 1,500 Syrian refugees have been accepted into the US since 2011, which means they allowed 20 times more drunk rednecks in a Cowboys game than Syrians in the States. But the Obama administration announced in September that 10,000 Syrians will be allowed next year. Sadly, this was before the attacks on Paris, and we're sure the president's wish remains. But now, more than half the nation's governors say Syrian refugees are not welcome. That's right, my friends, and although the final say on this immigration issue belongs to the federal government, they are reluctant to let Syrian refugees enter the states. Thanks for that, Donald, and fuck you, by the way. States protesting the admission of refugees range from Alabama and Georgia to Texas and Arizona to Michigan and Illinois to Maine and New Hampshire. And guess what? Among these 31 states, all but one have Republican governors. I guess you didn't see that coming. Spoiler, you did. The announcements came after authorities revealed that at least one of the suspects revealed to be involved in the Paris terrorist attacks entered Europe among the current wave of Syrian refugees. Once again, thanks on that, and fuck you, Donald. And you may ask, can each individual state oppose the federation? Well, American University law professor Stephen Bladek put it this way: legally, states have no authority to do anything because the question of who should be allowed in this country is one that the Constitution commits to the federal government. But here's the trick. So a state can't say it is legally objecting, but it can refuse to cooperate, which makes things much more difficult. Basically, without the state's participation, the paperwork will be a pain in the ass for both the federal government and the people asking for shelter. The states whose governors say they will accept refugees are Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Pennsylvania, Vermont, and Washington. God bless you all. Refugees trying to reach the United States must apply through the United Nations, and before being accepted, they are screened by the FBI and through databases run by the Defense Department and other federal agencies. The additional 10,000 Syrian refugees this year would come from 18,000 referrals already submitted by the United Nations. State Department officials said that more than half of them are children. So, my friends, we're certainly concerned about security. Like it or not, as Mexicans, we're neighbors, and all matters affecting you directly affects us too. Stick to your laws, stick to your ideals, but do not let the fear overcome them. As your pledge of allegiance reads, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Donald, fuck you again. Regresamos. see in this special, we passed from a brighter future to a darker present. A present full of shadows, fear, and misunderstood facts. But the only truth among this crisis is just one. People are born free. Borders just make us selfish. Regresamos. That's it for us. My name is Chumel Torres and this is El Pulso. Your subscription and thumbs up are greatly appreciated. I'm gone, but before I go, I would like to remind you, like every week, los amo, estupids. Thanks for watching.